Welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to talk about the national newspapers, find out what's going on in their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. Before I start, I'd just like to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, who have renewed their sponsorship for this year as well. So thank you ever so much to those guys. So let's introduce the panel. We have Andy Bates, he's the Chief Financial Officer at Gloucestershire College. The college has 800 staff, 10 to 15,000 students split over 3 campuses with a turnover of £40 million. And obviously Andy's in charge of all the dosh, so it's great to have him on board today. We've got Clive Thayers. She's a CSR consultant. Do people still call that nowadays, Claire? But she's the MD, founder, director, and she's a guru. Can't say any more than that, really. We have Sam Holliday, Development Manager for the Federation of Small Business for Gloucestershire and the West of England. I always like to say this, Sam, as you know, he's the ex-editor of the Bath Chronicle, and he's a Stranglers fan.
I am indeed.
Says everything about him that you want to know, really. Let's share the screen and find out what's going on in the national newspapers today. So it's a real mixed bag today. No tax cuts in 2023 as interest rate climbs to 14-year high. The Metro, harvest of horror, terrible story there. The Financial Times, TikTok chief struggles to fend off US ban in front of hostile Congress. The Daily Express, here's hoping bank chiefs, optimism for UK economy. The Mirror, why is Prem Star still playing after rape and assault claims? The Daily Telegraph, Labour plots tax raid on savings and investments. The Daily Mail, fury at work barristers refusing to prosecute eco-warriors. And the Times, council tax tops £2,000 as rates rise for the 11th time. And the Daily Star, have killer machines taking over the world? Well, we love the Daily Star, don't we? I think it's too late for all of us. Anyway, let's start with Sam. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. Sam, what have you picked out from the papers?
Well, I did notice on your Daily Mail, I think it was, that picture of Rupert Murdoch. I don't know if you've seen, but he's getting married again for the 5th time at the age of 92 to a 66-year-old lady, which begs the question, what first attracted her to the multi-billionaire Rupert Murdoch? Anyway, that's not what I was going to talk about. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the economy, really, hasn't it? And I've got the eye here talking about, as you said, about the no tax cuts as interest rates. I've got the Times talking about council tax rises. And you know, you've done this show for over 100 episodes now, Mark, and so often it starts with, you know, as businesses, we're all looking for signs that the economy is starting to move in the right direction. And I had a feeling a little while ago that once we got through January, things might start picking up. We were as low as we could. Confidence was low, interest rates were low and everything. And then early February, inflation for the first time went down a bit. And suddenly you just had that slight glimmer of hope that things were going to start moving again. And then this week, we've seen inflation go up and interest rates go up. And interest rates one's an interesting thing because years ago, an interest rate rise would have led every one of these newspapers. It would have been massive news. It's only on one as a main story because we're so used to it now. It's happening all the time. Now, today, funnily enough, I finally got my fixed rate mortgage sorted after a little while because I've been on a tracker. So it's been costing me more every month. You know, the only people that ever write to me now is HSBC telling me my mortgage has gone up. So I've fixed that, which will shut them up for a little while. But if you're a business, you know, you've got money, you've loaned money off the bank to invest in your business, to ensure you can keep jobs and going. It's another rise at a time when rates and everything are going up. And I read somewhere yesterday, I think it was, that food inflation, for example, is at 20%. And I don't care where people shop, whether you're at one of the markets, that, you know, the value markets, right up to the most expensive. Everything's more expensive. So when you hear about interest rate rises, when you hear about energy rises that are going to be happening for businesses next week, April the 1st, there's going to be no more support for energy from the government. You just wonder how we're ever going to get back on track. And I find it particularly frustrating today because I genuinely thought we might have bottomed out. Things weren't looking rosy, but in the budget, which now looks like a real damp squib in retrospect, they were talking about inflation being 3% by the end of the year. And if you're a business, you start thinking, well, hang on, that's not too bad. If I can get through till then, I'll be fine. And then today, inflation's gone up, interest rates gone up, food prices are going up, electricity is going up next year, and suddenly businesses are facing with all these horrible situations again. What do? We can't increase our costs because our customers can't afford it. You know, our staff need more money because inflation is going up. it's just like becoming a perfect storm again, and you know, it's really frustrating because I really hoped that January would bottom it out, but those headlines today and the ones you've shown that we're in the same position as we were.
I just want to bring you back. I think what you said about your own mortgage is really, really important, because when they started putting interest rates up, a lot of people were on, they had their mortgages. The majority of us had our mortgages. What's actually happened is that we've had to go and get new mortgage, new mortgages. Yeah. And that's really when the price rises are starting to happen. I was reading the paper the other day, and somebody here who had a mortgage on £500 a month is suddenly paying £2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Well, if everybody's going through those prices, suddenly you haven't got that extra spend, that extra pound in your pocket to buy those extras. If you buy an extra kettle or duvet or shop or go to a restaurant or have a nice holiday somewhere. And I think what's going to happen is a lot of that extra money in the system is slowly going to dry out of Middle England. And that's going to be a fundamental problem. Sam, one last minute. Have you got anything else you want to pick out?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind at some point. I'm not going to give it away in case anybody watching this hasn't seen it yet, but it was the Apprentice final last night. And this doesn't tell you who won, but the headline...
It's okay, you can say who won by the time we get to it. So
no, I won't. I'm not going to do that. I didn't watch it till last Saturday. A finale as predictable as Alan Sugar's puns. I used to love this show. I used to think it inspired young business people to think about really wanting to go, but it's become like an orgy of power dressing and lip gloss. It just feels very vapid now. I mean, I still watch it. Me and my wife watch it every week, but it's an entertainment show, not a business show. And I feel real ashamed because I'm doing a networking event at the FSB this morning, and there'll be, 40 odd people on there. And I guarantee 40 of them will be better than some of the businesses I saw in this month's Apprentice. But maybe they don't look right. Maybe they don't talk right. Maybe they don't have the television appeal. But it's a shame, really, because I think The Apprentice and Dragon's Den, which I'll still defend, by the way, are the two best adverts for young people about running your own business and what it can mean and the excitement and the variety. But The Apprentice, I'll watch it now just like I'd watch Coronation Street. It's a bit of fun, but it's not a business show anymore. And I think that headline summed it up. It was very predictable last night, so that doesn't give anything away, but it was predictable.
Okay, thanks so much. This is probably what's gone wrong with this show. I don't power dress and I don't wear lip gloss.
But no lip gloss.
Maybe this is, and that brings me very nicely over to Andy, because you mentioned not because you mentioned lip gloss, but because you mentioned apprenticeships. Andy, welcome to Punchline Talks today. What have you picked out for the papers?
A couple of things that caught my eye today. I got the Times today. I did. As I was making my cup of coffee, you can't see that, can you? I can't get it right. Oh, well. On the front page...
We practice that as well.
I know. It also talks about apparently coffee drinkers are 1,000 steps ahead of the rest. So if you have a cup of coffee, then you are going to do an extra 1,000 steps a day because you've had a cup of coffee. So that is fine by me. I don't know whether if you have 5 cups of coffee, you're going to do 5,000 more steps, but yeah, so that's an encouragement for me this one, because I do love a coffee to get me going. Then I looked at inside, and this isn't a news story today, but it's one that's been bubbling over the last few days and weeks, and this is around about Ofsted, and obviously the tragic story about the death of the head teacher after her Ofsted result. And this debate will go on and on, won't it, about how do we best judge schools, evaluate school success, because we know that sort of exam results aren't the best way, because you've got different children from different backgrounds. So just because the school's got bad results doesn't mean it's a bad school. But so it's quite a hard one to do, because it's not always a quantitative results, but there's something obviously not right with it, and obviously working in that industry myself, seeing the impact it does have on some staff and on some leaders creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health problems.
I mean, it must be the pressure for these head teachers, deputy heads, and we've all heard of stories. And I've looked after clients who failed Ofsted and helped turn them around as as a PR agency, a marketing agency. But the head teachers, the knock-on effect is absolutely devastating, isn't it? There has to be a different way.
Exactly, and we've had Ofsted recently and came out with good, which we're very, very pleased about. But the approach of the inspectors for us, we found excellent. We found very fair, very dialogue based. So I don't think it's everywhere, but obviously it's not consistent in some places. I mean, the one question, which doesn't necessarily say in the paper, but it's also what was the support for that head teacher when she'd been told that she was going to be requires improvement or an advocate? Was it just said to her and then they walked out and left her to it? I mean, I think that's sort of mental health support for that school and that leadership team when that decision has been made. I think, and that would be my interest to understand what sort of support would be given to that school rather than just being left on your own and to deal with it, because it is tough, and every stakeholder, everyone will have an opinion on it, and it's not necessarily always the head teacher's fault, is it? These are circumstances that the school finds itself in. So yeah, I don't really have any answers on it, but the article that was in the Times is basically that Ofsted had pushed back and said no, this is the best way. It's very, very sad, but at the moment this is the best way of evaluating schools. I think the unions are hoping for a bit more. I think they were hoping for a bit more of a dialogue and a bit more of a potential to open up that discussion, but at the moment that's been closed down by Ofsted.
I know, terribly tragic story. All right, well, thanks ever so much for that, Andy. Unless you've got one over you want to quickly go through.
No, that's
okay,
what I got for that one.
Right, Claire, let's come over to you. Thanks for joining us as always. Great to see you. So what have you picked out from the papers, please?
Well, actually, I was very interested in the stories that Sam and Andy have already covered, but the one that really stuck out for me, obviously social responsibility, and for those watching who don't even know what that means, we do have a problem with our terminology. ESG, environmental, social governance, social value, corporate social responsibility. At the end of the day, it's all about doing good is good for business and doing the right thing. Because if you take care of the planet and you take care of people, you have a profitable business. So I think a lot of people are waking up to this, and it's no longer a nice to have. It's about minimizing the risk. It's about helping with recruitment, retention, because if you have got those values entrenched into your business, it's going to help you a lot retain your staff. And let's face it, without staff, you haven't got a business. And recruiting young talent, as Andy and Sam know, is a big challenge. And yesterday, Cheltenham Chamber, we had a meeting to bring schools and businesses together to see how we can support that. And Andy was instrumental in that a year ago when we first had those conversations. So I was very interested and I've got a wry smile here, only because I worked for a lawyer in Cornwall for 8 years. And I was very interested to read in the Mail that barristers are refusing to prosecute eco-warriors. 120 signing a declaration of consciousness. Interesting, isn't it? Who knew? But I do think that people's attitudes are changing. People are becoming more and more aware what's right and what's wrong. And it's nice that people have got a conscience. That's refreshing, isn't it? I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, because obviously that pulls the whole law, into disrepute, doesn't it? If we're not having a fair and equal prosecution system, then what is the law doing? So, but I did think that
if they don't get prosecuted for throwing a brick for a Barclays Bank window or a Lloyd's Bank, or I don't know, destroying your car, or stopping an ambulance from getting through, surely there's something wrong with the system. That's the fundamental rule of law, that if you break the law, you've got to be prosecuted.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because the barristers now, I guess they a lot of this is to do with image. Don't forget that, Mark. People want to be seen as being woke. They want to be seen to be doing the right thing. So if they're saying they're failing or refusing, that's a very strong word, refusing to prosecute eco-warriors, where does that start? Where does it end? Is it about issues around planning with solar panels or wind turbines? I need to see some of these situations or cases that they're refusing to prosecute on, because fine line, where does that stop and where does it start? I don't know. Interesting one, but one to ponder. Have we gone too woke, Mark?
I think the whole world's gone woke. It's driving me bloody bonkers, I tell you, especially when you do this. And what do you think of that? Quickly, Sam? What do you think about that? Surely the rule of law has to come first. Or are you going to say, I don't want to get involved, Mark. I'm going to move on, please.
No. I kind of get that, and it's a bit like when you hear about people being no platformed because of their certain views, they're not allowed to speak at places, or the cancel culture. It's kind of a little bit insidious, really, because we may applaud the eco warriors, but what if barristers next time decide they don't want to defend people of something we don't agree with? Really, there's got to be law somewhere along the line. I feel very uncomfortable every time I hear a professor's been refused permission to speak at a university because he has certain views on certain issues and not going to go there. I just think, we don't want to get there, really. We are famous for being free, tolerant, free speech within obviously certain limits. And anything like that just makes me a little bit nervous, I think.
No, thanks ever so much. So I'm just going to quickly go over some of the papers that I've picked out. I've got a story here from the Times, which is about business fake shock as energy subsidy ends. And I was talking to a hotelier yesterday who said that his energy bill is going to go up from 16,000 to 60,000. How the hell can he put his cost of his room up? It just isn't going to work. And I think what we're going to see, if the government doesn't help, unfortunately, lots and lots of companies going to the wall. I just can't see it. Maybe we could come across that in your bit. It's just a piece in the Sun today as well. There was a piece here about Wix, and Wix, again, because of the cost of living crisis, they've seen their actual profits posted a drop in profits of 38%, as less and less can afford to do our DIY. I've got a great story here also in the Sun, and this is a picture of an alligator.
What a shame we can't see it. I mean,
I know. Can't even know. There's the alligator. He's crossing the road, and the question is from the Sun is, why did the 10-foot alligator cross the road? Well, are you going to stop him? Anyway, right, let's move on very quickly. Sam, what have you you're obviously a very busy guy, the Federation of Small Business. You represent thousands of small companies across the county. What's the general consensus out there now?
Well, it's a bit like I said at the start, really. I think everybody's been waiting for a starting gun that's going to say the economy is back in business, but we just haven't got there. And I do think I mentioned about the last budget. I sat there patiently with my pen, ready to write down all the headlines for business, and there literally wasn't any. It was like, some of the bigger businesses were helped out. Pensioners who could afford £1 million pension pot were covered, but so little else. And I'm thinking, is there really any understanding of what it's like on a day-to-day basis? Your hotelier is a good example. We could all share them. And with the exception of probably, I was thinking about this a minute ago, except for probably petrol, I can't think of anything that's gone down in the last 3 or 4 months. And it said on the Times there about council tax. My council tax bill from Gloucester Council, like you did probably as well, Mark, last week, it's gone up, not massively, but it's gone up, and everything has gone up, and it's gone up, and it's gone up. And if you're a business, I always say this to people, a lot of businesses work from home, or they're very small enterprises. So you'll have all these costs personally, and then you've got all the business ones as well. So if you've got an office to run, you've got energy to run. So all these shops that are desperately trying to encourage us to go in through the door to stop us shopping online, they've got to keep the lights on, they've got to keep it warm, they've got to keep it appealing, they've got to pay their staff well because inflation's going up. And there just doesn't seem to be any breaks. And, to be fair to governments, they've tried over the last few years, but, we're not there yet. And the amount of times people have said to me, if I can just get to this month, I'll be okay. But they keep pushing that month back, and now I've already had people saying 2024 is going to be a better year. I'm thinking, oh my word, it's only March. And that's really sad. And so I'd like to paint a happier picture, because I felt that we'd bottomed out, as I said earlier. I genuinely thought it's not going to get worse in January.
I'm glad you
music this week.
I just want to stop you there, mate, because the thing that you mentioned was the budget. And the budget, I don't know if you watched it like I did, but they said about the LEP, and they scooted past the LEPs that basically, I nearly missed it as well, so they were going to get rid of the LEPs, which is a massive, massive hit for us. Just one liner, mate. G106 LEP going to be taken in by the Gloucester County Council.
Awful decision. I think the one thing I will say, Mark, is there's 39 LEPs, I think, that are in the country. I think, on my experience, Gloucestershire might well be the best. And so it's a little bit like there's a naughty boy in the school, so nobody's going to the zoo. There's bad LEPs, I suspect, so they're all going to go. But it's done so much work on a independent, non-political, cross-county basis. And with all due respect, I don't think Gloucestershire Council's got that kind of profile. It doesn't seem to have that sort of feel to it. Whereas we've got some great district councils, we've got a great G1st LEP. I think we'll really miss it.
Totally agree. You know, and then it gets politicised. It's quite simple as that. And the LEP is not. Just very quickly, Claire. LEP going. What do you think?
Yeah, shocked. Absolutely shocked. I do a lot of work for Visit Gloucestershire. Food and drinks, my specialism with Visit Gloucestershire. I was bowled away. The LEP stood up. They got the funding. They've created Made in Gloucestershire. We've now got a directory of over 120 local food and drink producers. Something Sam and I have been working on along with Cirencester Chamber as well is about encouraging local procurement, encouraging our members to have the confidence and the skills to be able to win tenders from the bigger businesses. But the whole thing frightens me. And one of your topics that I read in Punchline about the cost of fruit and vegetables, horrendous. I mean, basics like carrots and onions, 110%, 10.4% rise, plus the cost of electric, as we've already talked about, Sam. You know, we can't afford to eat ourselves, let alone eat out. So the hospitality sector as a whole, it's on its knees. You know, COVID, shut, can't get staff, can't retain staff. Now the cost of living crisis. It's how can the hospitality sector survive? I just don't know. I don't know.
Thanks so much. I've got to go over to you, Andy, about the LEP. Obviously, you've got to be careful what you can say, I'm sure, because of your position. But you must have been shocked as well, not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the LEP have always supported us as a college. You know, we've got the new Cyber Innovation Centre that Hub 8 operate from our Cheltenham campus, and that was £1 million from the LEP, and that's provided space for cyber startups right in the heart of our Cheltenham campus, and then that's been full ever since it opened. And also those companies that are in there have then been offering apprenticeship places to young people. So I think that's a great example of a successful project. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we can continue to get that investment into the county, into the right projects that will really support local businesses. So yeah.
My big worry is that businesses don't like working with councils. They don't trust them. They know they have a political agenda, because they do. It's quite simple, because that's the nature of them. They don't think, you know, so fairly of the officers that work within councils as well, and they're very stretched. They're very, very stretched. You know, and personally speaking, I think the LEP have done a fantastic job. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sam. I think they've been tired of the same brush as others from
the less performing ones, yeah.
I think Sam's right there. I think there's been inconsistency, hasn't there, across the country of the quality, and yeah, they've been unfortunate because maybe others haven't been as proactive and as embedded in the business community, maybe.
And also, the really frightening thing is, there's a piece that Ian Mean wrote the other day, and he was telling me about it, is that the government has actually written to all the LEPs and asked them for a massive document about what they actually do. Says it all. Right.
Not making someone redundant and telling them to tell you what you've been doing for the rest of your. I mean,
it seems a bit of a
I'd send a very short reply,
I think let's just hope the hubs are okay as well, because I think they're fantastic. You know, apparently they've got funding for 2 years. I just want to say about that now. I mentioned the hubs, the fantastic hubs we've got here. Andy, that brings me nicely back over to you. I was there at the college only last week when you were launching your new EV centre. Really, really fantastic. It's nearly £1 million investment. Can you just give us an overview of that, please?
Yeah. So we've been teaching motor vehicle at the college for forever, and we have about 250 learners each year that go through the motor vehicle course, whether that's kids on full-time courses or whether it's apprentices. So we're always looking to sort of upgrade the facilities and change with the times, and we're having sort of conversations with garages and employers all the time, making sure that the learners that come through the college have got the right skills. So an opportunity came up to bid for some green money. So we put that into getting the right equipment for electric vehicles. So the equipment, as you can imagine, is a bit different that you need to maintain electric vehicles. Some of it quite dangerous dealing with electric. So quite very different feel now in the workshop. I don't know whether you really saw that. Not sort of not much oil and dirt everywhere. It was a bit. It was more sort of very clean and more like a medical sort of area. And that's the changing times in terms of mechanics motor vehicle. I think it's getting a lot more diagnostic with the electronics. A lot of crossover with our sort of electrical department as well. So yeah, really exciting. I think it's some of the best equipment in the country, and we've got it in Gloucester, which has got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Well, that's right. You're leading the rest of the country. The thing that we've talked about a little while ago is that these cars don't break down so much at the moment. So the garages have got to.
Well, I think it's going to be. I mean, I'm not an expert. I've talked to John, who's our head of department there. But they will start breaking down, but it'll be different to normal cars. So it'll be more around sort of the battery and readjusting things and yeah. You'll have to read the article in Punchline to really get the detail.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you
they
for
will.
that.
I'm told they will go wrong, Mark, at some point. So we'll be ready.
And talking about cars that go wrong, actually, we wrote a story yesterday about the Ford Capri coming back, the electric version of a Ford Capri. And my best friend had a Ford Capri that used to always go wrong, funny enough. I'm sure his electric one would break down as well. And there's a story today bubbling away where Ford have lost around £2 billion trying to move into electric cars. Anyway, that's fantastic for that, Andy. Great to hear what a great job you guys are doing there at the college. Claire, you're obviously work with lots and lots of different companies, but you're working with Sparix Sarco at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, their CSR is amazing. I urge anybody to look at their One Planet page on their website, because they really, really do take care of people and planet. They're doing amazing things. And I'm helping them at the moment. They've got over 1,200 staff based across their 3 sites in Cheltenham. Every member of staff gets 3 days a year volunteering. And I was asked a year ago to help because only 6% were taking that opportunity up. And Stuart Jessup, who asked me to come in, he'd worked out that was the equation of 13 people working full time in the voluntary sector being lost. So we've been on a mission. We've got it up to 25% in a year, so I'm quite pleased it's working. But I think, the bit that we forget to share, Mark, is how it improves health and well-being. I think a lot of time when we talk about volunteering, we're just thinking about the end user and how we're supporting them. But I've done lots of mentoring, for example, again, change that perception. It's not about necessarily painting a scout hut. It's about how you can help a young person. Mentoring is just the most amazing thing that you can do for anybody. And we forget that a lot of young children, I'm sure Andy will back us up on that. A lot of young people don't have that mentoring support from their parents necessarily. So some of the ways that we can help those less or more challenged children is by giving back and mentoring them, and interview techniques, work experience, etc. All of us as businesses can do our bit, and we as individuals can do our bit. And I have to say, Sparix are really inspirational what they're doing.
It's funny you mentioned mentoring, because we had Colin Frencham on here last week from Time Trent. He was explaining about how they've got to go into schools and train staff, nursery staff, how to deal with small children who come to school who haven't been potty trained. And they've seen a 300% rise since COVID of parents not teaching their children potty changing, potty training. So you can imagine you work in a nursery and you've got that sort of delicate balance of health and safety in your own, looking after you, making sure you don't get accused of anything as well. So you've got to really, really be careful of what goes on there. But the fascinating chat last night with Colin about that as well. Well, thanks ever so much for that. We're kind of running out of time, so let's quickly go through the stories that caught your eye in this week's Punchline. I'll start with you again, Sam. What's caught your eye in this week's Punch, please?
Just a quick one. I was very impressed with what happened yesterday in Gloucester Guildhall. A thing for the over 50s who are looking for employment opportunities. We talk a lot of time about young people and the brilliant work we know that Gloucester College does with some younger people. But, the over 50s market, there's people with energy, with ideas that still want to start new careers. And a fair was put on. I think Richard Graham, the MP for Gloucester, was very involved in it to encourage older people to go back into the workplace and I know the Gloucester College would welcome anybody of any age on their courses that want to retrain, because a lot of people I know people that during COVID decided that they would actually stop working, and they thought they might just have enough money, and because of the cost of living crisis they realised they haven't got enough money, but also they realised that they weren't yet ready to give up work. We all dream of that time when we can sort of just read books whenever, as long as we want. But there's only so many books. There's only so many coffee shops you can visit. You know, work is still a driving force. And so for an initiative to get older people back into the workplace, excellent. So nice piece you did there. And the photo showed how popular it was as well, which really encouraged me. So thank you for that.
It was thank you as well. And it was great to meet the minister, by the way,
Yeah.
Opperman, Guy Opperman, who fair play to him. He got caught up in an interview beforehand. I won't name any names, but got caught up in an interview beforehand. It ran way too long, and he stayed behind to make sure that Punchline got the interview as well. So we get a chance. I did ask him what he's doing to help businesses and employment. So I don't even get a chance to watch that. Thanks so much for that, Sam. Claire, what's caught your eye in this week's Punch, please?
Well, wearing my Visit Gloucestershire hat, who knew Colford has actually trumped Cornwall and Devon? Whoopee! So for those who haven't read the Punchline yet, good old Colford. So a national staycation crown for Colford. So that's great for the local economy, pulls people away from the hotspots, because as we know through COVID, places like Bolton-on-the-Water were just inundated. It was Home to Go that did the research. And I think that's amazing. So well done, Colford. I had to give them a shout out.
No, fair play. I really like Colford, but then I love the Forest of Dean anyway. Goes without saying. It's near Wales, you see. Says it all. Andy, what's caught your eye in this week's Punch?
Obviously the 50 plus one close to my heart, and we, like Sam said, we take learners from any age, from the age of 16 up to 60, 70, 80.
You take anybody really, Andy, won't you?
We've got a course, and as you know, our mantra is to get people back into work, get people into work to support Gloucestershire and the economy in Gloucestershire. But the other one I was looking at is that, you know, because Sam was talking about, we're talking about doom and gloom, we're talking about interest rates and costs and stuff, but it seems like restaurants are still opening up, Mark. I think you've reported that 2 new restaurants, one in Cheltenham and one in Gloucester. So obviously there's still some appetite for investment for the right location and for the right model. And some people obviously still have some money in their pockets. So we are still seeing things open. So it's great to see that. But whether everyone's going to be able to survive, I don't know. But I think what it is saying is that if you've got the right proposition, you've got the right product, that you can still succeed. So I think that's the one thing I took from some of your articles.
Well, no, thanks so much. And the story that caught my eye this week is, it's got to be, actually, there were so many good pieces. It was all the Elms Park development. We're going to find out from the meeting last night whether that's going to take place. All those thousands of houses, 4,000 houses been on the outskirts of Cheltenham. The A417, the missing link, the redesigns of that. But the story that really caught my eye, and I've got to give a big shout out, is the Public Hearts campaign. They reached 50 defibrillators, all volunteers. Spirex is involved with that as well. And I just want to say a big hand to those guys as well. Absolutely, truly amazing. Go back to the hospitality, the 2 restaurants. There's never been better deals on rents and rates at the moment. So that's having a big part to play on the high street too. Just like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Thanks ever so much to those guys. If you like the show, please like, share and subscribe. And thank you to my wonderful panel. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you like the show, watch it next week. And it's all in the Punchline. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.